Wow, this disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077 just keeps getting worse and worse, doesn't it? At this point, now I'd go as far to say this is one of, if not the most embarrassing game launch in the history of video games. It's gotta be when you consider how hyped this game was and how it has just disappointed incredibly hard. So real quick, for those unaware, Cyberpunk 2077 was easily the most anticipated game of the year, probably of the entire generation, and has just had an insane amount of issues leading up to and through launch. I made a video last week that got quite a bit of hate, a lot of dislikes, on discussing that I was concerned about this game, particularly for the console versions of it, as it came out that CD Projekt Red, right before the reviews were set to go live, that they were not giving out review codes for the game on console, and they weren't allowing reviewers to show any of their own gameplay in their video reviews. They had to use B-roll footage provided by CD Projekt Red themselves. Of course, nothing to see here, the fanboys cried. They probably just don't want you to see it without the day one patch. You know, those day one patches always fix everything. It didn't, shocker, and the game launched in a completely broken state on the current gen consoles. It doesn't even look anything like the game they showed in many instances, and this game, again, highly anticipated, quickly devolved into pretty much just a meme. And I gotta state here, because the big defense for the game on console has just been, oh well, what did you expect? The PS4 and the Xbox One are old hardware. This game's clearly designed with next gen in mind. Dummies, this game was actually originally supposed to come out at the beginning of the year, long before the Xbox Series X and the PS5, the next gen, even shipped. So that was the plan all along, smart guy? That this was a next gen game, even though it was set to launch long before the next gen systems came out? Come on. Anyone with a brain can see that, yes, this probably should have just been sold on PC and next-gen systems, but given the game's release window, that's not many potential sales. Again, those new systems have only been out for a few weeks and are nearly impossible to find. I'm sure if you're someone who's been trying to buy like a PS5, you know they're quite hard to come by. So it's not like there's a big install base for them yet. The total of the new systems sold is surely a drop in the bucket compared to, of course, the PS4 and the Xbox One install bases. So to maximize that profit, they made sure to put the game on everything, which would be fine if those current gen versions weren't complete dog shit. So the backlash over this came so fast and furiously that CD Projekt Red was forced to make an official statement in regards to the issues players were having, in which they stated all kinds of BS to try to save their asses. Oh, we apologize that the last gen versions don't run as well as they should, and that we didn't show them to you, trying to give it that vibe like, oh, this was a mistake, it was an accident, when, like I said earlier, they refused to give out review codes for those console versions. They knew full well those versions were terrible, so they actively tried to hide them from the players. But yeah, in their statement, they're like, go contact support for your platform of choice if you want a refund. Gave out like an email of their own that could help assist you to get a refund for the game. And those requests have probably gotten pretty out of hand, because now Sony appears to have had just about enough of this whole thing. Now, if you've ever tried to refund games with Sony on PlayStation Store, like if you buy digital titles from their storefront, you know it's not easy if it's a game you've already started playing. Like, they'll cut you some slack if you accidentally bought something and haven't booted it up at all. But if you've played something that you bought on the PlayStation Store, it's not easy to get a refund for that. But last night, they announced that not only will they be offering just that, anyone who wants a refund for Cyberpunk 2077 can easily get one through them, but also they are completely removing the game from the PlayStation Store until, quote, further notice. This is a big, huge, massive bombshell in my opinion, really cementing the game as one of the worst launches in gaming history. I mean, when you look back, at least in recent memory, to some of the most famous launch fails, titles like Anthem or No Man's Sky, titles again very well known for how poorly they were received at launch, but none of them were completely removed from a digital storefront like this. Cyberpunk is in a league of its own in that regard, and well deserved with how terrible not just the game itself was, but how they handled the whole thing, like I said, being obviously deceitful with the marketing and advertisements, looking nothing like the finished product, at least on current gen systems. I gotta say, I'm stunned at how this whole thing is played out. It may not even be done with how things are going. Yeah, there may be some more twists and turns in this story yet, but I will say, I think this sadly puts CD Projekt Red on the level of an EA or Blizzard now for me. Like, I could never in full conscience just trust that their next game, no matter how good it looks, isn't going to be a complete disaster at launch after this. After seeing what happened with Cyberpunk. And to be clear, it's not just that. It's not just the poor launch that's the issue. It's how they tried to hide it. There's no counter argument to it. You can't try to argue that they weren't fully aware of what they were doing, of what they were releasing, and that it was bad. That it would be received poorly, because that's why they tried to hide it the best they could. And now they're getting dragged for it, and rightfully so. Let this be a lesson to other studios. It's not enough to just try to coast and cash in on your goodwill with the fans for a big payday. You try to pull this crap, even if you are a beloved studio and you've never done something like this in the past, you do this even once and it's going to cost you. People aren't going to put up with it because you've been deemed one of the good studios. Oh, they just made a mistake. Bullshit. At least most people aren't going to put up with that. That's what I think we as the players, as the consumers, should want the message to be. You try to swindle people and you're going to pay for it. Now, I will say, because this seems to be really hard for the CD Projekt Red fanboys to get, this doesn't mean that the PC version is awful, even the next-gen versions. They still, from what I've seen, definitely have problems, but it's those PS4 and Xbox One versions that are the big issue. People aren't saying the game itself is terrible, or even that they can't fix these versions, that they could make things right down the line, which that would be a good thing, a positive. But again, and this is the key, like I said, these fanboys, they don't get this. Even if these versions are fixed one day, that doesn't make what they did here okay. If the game is fixed weeks, months later, that doesn't make it okay to sell it in this state to begin with. Like, if the game needed more time to get properly running on all the systems, you should have delayed it again. You had no problem delaying it the, other 20 times you delayed it, which that's another thing I've seen people trying to act like, oh, they couldn't delay it again because players were impatient. They released it because the players wanted it now in any state. Probably the dumbest argument I've seen during this whole thing, as if decisions like this, when to release a massive game that's been in development for almost a decade, is determined by people screaming that they want it on Twitter. No. The fact of the matter is, they released this game now because they wanted to get that sweet, sweet holiday cash. Okay, that's just a fact. Full stop. And they even noted in that official statement that they have, I think, 2 big patches, one planned for January and one for February, that they believe will fix at least most of the issues people are having with those current-gen versions. Again, makes it seem like the game should have just came out in February if you wanted to support those versions. But like I said, that would have caused them to just miss that holiday window, or they could have released it in December like they did for just PC and the next-gen systems, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, but then they couldn't get all those PS4 and Xbox One sales. Do you see how this works? All that mattered was getting max profit, not delivering fans a quality product, and I'm glad, once more, to see the response they're getting in return. I'm wondering now, actually, if Microsoft is going to follow suit. Are we going to see the game pulled from the Xbox store until further notice. That would be pretty hilarious. But yeah, what else can I say? CD Projekt Red, what do you get when you take people's money in exchange for a broken, falsely advertised product?
Get what you fucking deserve!
Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the Cyberpunk 2077 saga in the comments. Are you currently playing the game? What version are you playing? What are your thoughts on it? And how do you feel about how poorly this launch has played out? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Cyberpunk 2077's launch and the game being pulled now from the PlayStation Store. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter at Johnny Zakari. And join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.